Good morning, and how's everyone doing this morning? Wonderful. Yeah, I'm in a really good mood. I don't know, that choir really did it for me. I love that. It's springtime, and I'm very grateful. I feel very grateful, and I'm very blessed to have this opportunity to share a little bit about my blessing experience. And like Clara said, we had actually a lot of New Jersey members attend. The Burns, Clara, over about 13 couples, I believe, just over a dozen. And I'm very humbled because I'm standing before so many people that have come before me, and they put the photo up already. But last weekend, Easter Sunday, Pastor Manoj delivered a very wonderful message. It was a message of rebirth. It was a calling to stand up as champions for Jesus and champions for True Father. And he really described the really difficult course that Jesus had to go through. It's really set the foundation, the really difficult course it was for him to go against the entire empire to bring such a simple word of love and peace. Looking back right now, it's a very obvious message of love and peace that we can very clearly say was a very good thing, and it's created a foundation for all of us to stand on. And Christianity has changed the world, and Christianity has changed lives, and it's making the world a better place. And but the very interesting point that he made is looking back, or at the time it wasn't so obvious, during the days after Jesus' passing, the Christians were fed to the lions. To the generations moving forward, there were schisms. There was an eradication effort in many cases against Christians. And what I really feel is that we're experiencing very similar turbulent times since the passing of our founder. And I think it's very important to see some of those parallels, and it's essential in times where it's really difficult, where we question where we're going and the things that are happening behind us and things that we don't quite understand. It's very essential that we go back to the basics, and it's very essential that we understand the ideal. I think it's very essential that we understand the value of the blessing. How'd you? All right. So I'm going to talk about the blessing. I received the Holy Blessing last month, March 3rd, in Korea. And I won't share my matching story. It's premature. But what I do find value in sharing is my personal motivation for striving towards and dedicating my life to receiving the blessing. And that is a life well lived, honestly. And I feel like sharing that ideal holds a lot of value, no matter how old you are, no matter where you're going, no matter where you've been. Just to get it off the table, the way I feel a month out, last weekend I went to I took my dad and I went to the Tabasco. It was a young adult retreat, and he gave us a talk there. But his prayer before the talk was very profound because in that moment he said something along the lines of, God wants to give us more than what we dream of. God wants to give us more than what we dream of. Life is very difficult. We all experience hardships, but God always and unconditionally wants to bring us joy. Even if that is, even if we have to make conditions to receive it. God always and unconditionally wants to bring us joy. God always wants to give us wonderful and beautiful things. He wants to make us happy. And that was really confirmation for me. The blessing was a confirmation for me. In this past month, I've just been overwhelmed with wonderful emotions. I've been utterly infatuated. I've been on the cloud, and I don't plan on coming down from the cloud. And I don't need to hear anyone telling me to come down from the cloud. But it's really a wonderful feeling. It's a real blessing to have this, and I wish this for everybody. God didn't give me the woman of my dreams. God gave me someone more fulfilling. I could not even imagine this. So that's where my gratitude comes from. That's from my blessing is going right now. So it's a good thing. So for me, I'm going to share some points why I value the blessing. Some of these are very personal. Some of them through experience and some through my research and through the doctrine. But I'm an engineer, and I approach things very logically, systematically, with reason. And so my first real exploration into the value of the blessing was a very concrete. I need to measure. I found something that was really powerful that I could really wrap my hands around, despite the internal aspect, despite what the DP teaches and whatnot. It's just highly functional, and I'll explain why. It's a highly functional system that's been around for a while, and it's beautiful. It produces beautiful results when it's done correctly. The second big thing is obviously it's incredibly powerful internally. It is a channel for God to make you a better person, for you to grow. And the third point is it trumps them all. It's the most important one. It's the right answer. It's from the book. It's from True Father. And I'll say that for the last. But it's a very powerful one. The blessing is very highly functional. Allow me to defend our process. And I had to defend it because if you go and tell somebody that I go out and tell someone that I was married with a couple thousand couples around the world and in a room with a stadium. My marriage was in a stadium with a couple hundred people. We can race to so many conclusions of how funny and interesting that whole experience is. A quote from an American journalist. In modern America, it is a given that first comes love, then comes marriage, but this has not always been the case throughout history. The idea that marriage is based entirely on love is a fairly new concept. Now, that's very interesting to me. Obviously, we know from history, a lot of times royal families treated marriages as transactions based on social status, for diplomacy, political reasons. There were many different purposes of marriage, but today the focus has very solely become on the individual and the joy. So I'm not saying that it's right, the way it's been done, but the motivation being self-centered wasn't always there, and it's not an abnormal situation. That's why the matching process is very effective. An important fact to note is that an arranged marriage is not the same as a forced marriage, nor is it necessarily an involuntary union foisted upon unwilling participants by their families. So, we're getting really good at this moving forward as our movement really evolves, but it's nothing forced anymore. And nowadays, most second gen, when they get matched, if they're fortunate enough to receive True Mother's matching, that is happening. It happens in an old-fashioned way. But we also now, moving forward, the majority of matchings in my experience have been a combination of chemistry. So it's not that we neglect our chemistry. It's that the focus is very solely not on yourself. Actually, so it's not purely focused on the needs of an individual, or it's not even focused on the needs of two individuals. The basis on family and lineage gives it all the depth and all the purpose. And that's a wonderful thing. In these recent generations, there's been, especially in Western culture, there's such a big focus on who is the right person for me. And I'm not going to settle, and I'm going to date, and I'm going to go out until I find this person. And that's just the model nowadays. But that's not the norm all over, The matching and the blessing, it's nothing particularly new. In its operational perspective. Chemistry and purpose, this is what I believe, chemistry and purpose make a really powerful marriage. I don't think you can go on either extreme. I don't think you could say that I've done it, I've submit myself 100% to True Father and Heavenly Parents, and that'll happen. Or, I'm going to go and I'm going to find the person I love, and that'll work out as well. I think that there's a very, really good balance. A couple examples that I see in everyday life. I work in the technology industry. I work with a lot of Indians, a lot of my Indian colleagues. I've learned so much from them. The most beautiful thing that I really take away is that they have beautiful families. There's no concept of divorce, at least for my small sample size of people that I've really been close to. And I love that. They have, they're pushing around baby carriages all the time. They multiply like bunnies. They're very beautiful people. And they just don't have a really big concept of divorce, and they all go through their families. It's very simple. It's very normal. It's very normal to the point that I had one friend who said that she had a love marriage, and that was unconventional. And what that meant is that she basically went through the process on her own, and then brought that to that person to their parents, and then everything worked out. But that was unconventional for them in this society. You see, and that's a very beautiful thing too in our movement. Orthodox Jews, I think, are a great example. I live in a town that's full with Orthodox Jews, and I tell you, they're model citizens. The reason God chose them at a certain point, they are businessmen They are lawyers, they are financiers. These are the people that I see walking down the street. And every Saturday, they spend their whole time at the temple. Truly inspirational. They have beautiful families. They also push around a lot of baby carts, and they dress their finest on Saturday. Very exemplary group. And they all go through matchmakers, the Orthodox Jews, right? So again, they don't take it upon themselves, I don't believe, or necessarily all the time, to go out and find someone because it just felt right, because this person fit my needs, or this person compliments me really well. When you go through a matchmaker, you go through a family, it's a union of families. You're not involving just yourself, you're involving yourself, your potential spouse, your potential in-laws. The entire community is behind you. That's a beautiful thing. So from a functional perspective, that's more evidence for myself, all I need to see that this is a really wonderful thing. On the other side of things, in college, I went to school with Sungkook Burns and Jimmy Coyne. We all went to an engineering school. My roommates were the most conventionally impressive people on campus. They were athletic team captains. They were various organizational presidents, society presidents, fraternity presidents, and I even roomed with the valedictorian of my year. So I surrounded myself with people that were very socially acceptable and very destined for success. These really good people that worked hard. But here's the thing. This is why I really felt that I had something really special. My friends would go out, where they would work hard from Monday to Friday or Monday to Thursday or Friday, and then they would go out on Thursday and Friday, Saturday, and that was their outlet. That was their chance at finding lasting love and relationships, the nightlife after school. So they would work hard and then play hard, and that was the concept. That was a good idea to finding lasting love. And that does, and people do get married that way. But for me, finding lasting love was for them, finding lasting love was a much more difficult path. And I really felt that I was putting my time and my effort and my spirit and my mind and my body and everything towards develop myself as a person for the right person when that person came around, with the involvement of my family, with the involvement of her family, with the involvement of the community, and most importantly, with the alignment of God and heavenly parents. And that's what makes a big difference. That's what makes a lasting relationship, because it's a combination of your chemistry, and it's a combination of your desire for a higher purpose. And the biggest and the strongest example for me is in my own roof, is under my own roof. My parents have I think a lot of families in this room and around the world have really interesting stories. My father was a Filipino boy from Queens, New York, little Filipino boy from Queens, New York. My mother was a Taiwanese girl from a tiny fishing village in Taiwan. And they were both agnostics, and they had very little hope for the world. But they found their way into this movement. They found their way to true father. They found their way to true parents. And who would have known that God knew that they were going to be great together. They were going to be powerful together. They were going to do great things together. They were going to make an impact in the world. And they found high purpose, and they dedicated and sacrificed their lives to achieving that. And to this day, I don't see love like that I don't see love like that anymore. I see love demonstrated the way it should be, and marriage demonstrated with a backing and purpose, and something that two unlikely people found common base with to really change the world with. That's truly inspirational for me. Aboji, that's really, really powerful for me. So more than anything, that's what I wanted. So never mind everything else. Never mind my solid foundation, in the Word. Never mind. Not never mind, but I'm just saying, if I was loose in any other aspect of my life of faith, just looking at the way my parents were raised, that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted to fight for. That's what I was going to do. I would do anything to achieve that, because it's beautiful, because it's righteous, and we have a lot of fun. So I chose to build a relationship with God, my family, my closest church family. I kept my closest church friends really close to me, really tight, and my community. I think that we need to, I really dedicate myself to working towards becoming a candidate where lasting love can be appreciated. It's a really good investment to think about the long term, not just what's going to make you happy at the time. And probably one of the greatest benefits of this mentality that I really adopted at an early age is it became my commitment to being a good candidate for the matching and the blessing. It became the driving force behind my decision-making engine. And what that means is, whenever I came to a fork in the road, whenever I had to make an ethical, moral decision, there are two questions I always ask myself. What would my future spouse think of me? What would my future spouse think of this? And what will my children think of this? What will my son think of this? What will my daughters think of this? And that drove me insane. That drove me mad to be excellent at everything I did. I was a better athlete because I asked those questions. I was a better musician because I asked those questions. I was better in school. My grades were better. I took that attitude to Manhattan for my first job. I took that everywhere I went. Because let me tell you what that can do. If I'm on the track and I'm about to run a 400-meter sprint, I have the opportunity to tell my son, I did this in 51 seconds, or I did this in 50 seconds. And that's up to me, I get really passionate about track, Joe, I'm sorry. But I had God gave me everything I needed to get that number. He gave me 4 years of time offering to do that. And that's what I'm going to be able to tell my kids for the rest of my life, that I ran 50 seconds with 400. For running 110-meter hurdles, jumping over 10 hurdles in a straight line. Am I going to be able to tell my wife, am I able to tell my kids, did I run that in 16 seconds or 15 seconds? And that drove me crazy, because I wanted to be proud. I wanted to be able to tell them that. And from a practical perspective, if you think of everything you do, when you play music, when you have to, practice another extra half an hour for something, everywhere I played, every seat that I sat in, every opportunity that I had, I always wanted to be proud. I wanted my family to be proud of where I'm going. And that drove me to do great things, to do crazy things. And that is just such a healthy aspect. Because none of this is focused on me, Really. None of this is focused inwards. You've experienced joy through your family. You experience God through your family. And you really, there you go. Abba G. Yeah. So from a very functional perspective, there's so many really good driving forces behind accepting the path of the match and the blessing. The Honduke was 2/3 about purity, actually. So I do want to talk about purity, but for once I don't want to talk about it from an internal aspect because we have a lot of that. I think there's a very practical aspect. And I very truly believe that we are meant for one person and one person alone in our life. And that's just the common chemical way that humans are designed. I was brought up in a very extreme way, brother-sister segregation. And I played by the rules too, it's tough. I smothered all my feelings that I had for women in middle school and high school. I do think that we're finding that really good balance in terms of where we're moving in our movement, to finding that balance in that brother-sister relationship. It's a very wonderful, beautiful thing, and I'm very grateful for that evolution, and I've seen it before my eyes. My parents sent me to an all-boys Catholic school, so that was really great. I'm very proud of that. I'm a big believer in the Christian education. When the time comes, I'm actually reinvesting so that I can make sure my kids can get there, when it becomes on demand in years to go. But I was really protected and really sheltered to protect my purity before I even wrapped around my head of just how critical it was for me to do that. Even in college, I was known as the guy that put everyone in the friend zone. That was a really funny thing, Nothing further, you're really attracted to a girl, but she's just your friend and nothing else. Put them in a box. Anyway. I believe people are designed to marry and grow with one person for all eternity. And from a very practical perspective, when you join into a relationship, and this is just in my experience, I think it's an incredible experience to be able to go with no baggage in the relationship. I think it's very incredible to go with no regrets, with no secrets, with no reservations. Because I think for marriage to be successful, especially over the long term, we need to be able to trust each other. Aju? Abba G. We need to be able to trust each other. We need to have no reservations on where we have been and where we're going. So I know it's hard. I know it's difficult. I know it's not the reality half the time. But what I'm saying is that does not make it any less true as the ideal. We all have to strive to be pure. Because, for me, when the time comes and with my wife, I'm in heaven. And I hear about all these other things, from my friends, and it's you figure things out when you fight. You figure things out the old-fashioned way. You know what I'm saying? If you're focused on the individual, if you're really experienced in dating, you hit a wall with your current relationship, and you say, I got to go. This is not the right person for me. I made a mistake. I saw something that I never saw before. And these are all questions that you shouldn't be asking. You should be telling yourself, this is God trying to make me a better person. God. Okay, that's my next point. God, we have to grow. You know what I'm saying? Like, this goes for people right now in the blessing. This goes for people that are struggling in the blessing. These are for people that have been in their blessing for decades. Like, for me, I constantly need to grow. And God knows me, and God knows that I need to grow. When I'm 40, when I'm 45, when I'm 50, I still want to keep growing. You know what I mean? And that's what the blessing does. Growth. I'm getting ahead of myself, actually. But and just to tell you how difficult I think it is to choose this way, to really suppress your emotions. I came in with all these defenses, but the day I laid eyes on my wife, all my defenses went out the window. And so that's why I know it's difficult. But that's also the glory in the way the process is moving forward. It is good to have that chemistry. And God, for the longest time, was telling me, don't suppress your feelings either. But know where your foundation is. Know where you were coming from. Believe in it. Unite with it. And then you have a lot more liberty and a lot more trust between you and Heavenly Parent to make the decisions and work with them. I think it's a very beautiful part of our process. And one very important and very, very cool thing is that once parents gave the green light, once our families gave the green light, I worked very hard. I worked very hard to make her like me, just to make her like me. And I wish that for everyone, because that's one of the most exciting feelings that is fulfilled. This thrill that people get, going out Thursday, Friday, Saturday night looking for love, that's some short-term love, and that is a thrill. Do that in your marriage, find that girl in your marriage. Find that girl in your marriage. You go out. I pray and I wish that you work hard to go out of your way and do that for them. That is God. How about G? It's good. It's good. It makes you more of a man. It makes you more of a woman. Anyway. So that's really all very functional aspects of getting matched and blessed. That's why they work, even if you don't really buy into. The rest of what we're doing here, but it's enough for me. The internal aspect now, this just really grows my support of this match and blessing process. My drive to become a better candidate and a better person was a shared interest with God. So that's something that we both saw eye to eye in. I always wanted to grow. I always want to continue to grow. And God is the number one person that wants everyone to keep growing. Do you believe that God knows you better than you know yourself? Jew. Do you believe that he knows you? He knows what you need to grow? Jew. Okay. You know what? I believe that. I believe that he knows what I need to become perfect. I believe that God knows everything that I need to become perfect. And the reason I say perfect is not because I know that I can definitely achieve it. It's because if we shoot for perfect, we're all going to end up all right. You know what I'm saying? All right? So we have these things. We have... we have all these different ways that we connect to God, but God knows what we need to be perfect, and the blessing is an incredible channel for that to really happen. Here's the thing, and I said this before when I talked about the 4 gate realms of heart, 3 gate kingships. The way we connect with God is invisible, right? God, you can't see God, right? Maybe you can. I can't see God, but God is most tangible in the people closest to us. Jew? Okay, in the ideal world, right now, there's so many ways to, go out and, I experience God through sports. People experience God through nature. They really experience God. In the ideal world, you don't have to look for things that you can't really grasp. You look to your grandparents, because they represent a part of God that only God can convey through a grandparent. Jew? And you look to your parents, because God can only... convey a part of his heart that is a heart of a parent, a direct parent. Jew? And you can only experience the same through your aunts and uncles. Your aunts and uncles can give you a specific love that only God can convey through them. And even your siblings, especially your siblings. God can convey a love to you, your older siblings, your younger siblings. And this is the law. This is the law of love, and this is the way God comes to us. In the ideal world, you don't have to go to anyone but your own family, because those are the people closest to you. That being said, this new realm that I'm entering is marriage. And I've heard it once, I've heard it many times, and I do believe this. Marriage is the fastest, someone in the last sermon told me children was. But up until now, the fastest way to grow is marriage. And I believe that right now. And it's been a couple months into the matching. It's been a month into the blessing, and I'm really feeling that. Your spouse is someone that God can experience, can give you so much growth through. So God knew what I had, and I kind of knew what I had, and God knows what I need, and I think that I knew what God wanted to give to me, or what I needed. Intellectually, I was raised with the Word. I'm Jerry Servito's son. We just studied DP and UT all the time. And to me, I think I'm so grateful for that experience. I'm telling you could explain so many things that are happening right now. If you just understand the ideal, if you understand the word, so many things are much more clear. You know what I'm saying? So that is one thing that I was very confident with. It's something I could defend myself with. But that alone is not enough. I think emotionally we need to have a deep connection to what we're doing. I had a deep connection to what my parents were doing. You know what I mean? There's people that really connect with true family, true father, true mother. And this is the thing. In order to be a perfect person, we need so many different, there's no extremes. And this is a recurring thing. There's no extremes. There's no one right way to do things, You can have incredibly intellectual people, scholars of the word, and the able types are the ones that really can defend very wonderfully. And then there are people that aren't around who have incredible knowledge of the word. You understand? There are wonderful, life-changing people in my life that I looked up to because they knew how to convey the truth. But if even a person like that, if they lose that artistic connection, you can't, it might not last the test of time. And on the same time, I see people that just bend over backwards for true family, that sacrifice everything for true family, that sacrifice everything for our movement. And they know a little bit of the DP, you know what I'm saying? And they're doing fine, And sometimes people are not. I'm just saying, there's so many different aspects that we have to perfect in order to grow, in order to be better people. So we need balance to stand for what we believe in. I'm able to, really argue and defend my faith based on the word. But one very interesting experience that I had a couple months ago is that one of my closest friends, a Korean friend of mine, we were hanging out with some friends, and we had talked to another good friend who was kind of renounced a lot of his beliefs, and I don't believe in, I'm not a second gen anymore. I don't believe any of that. But this person really was sour. And this person brought to the table a lot of facts and, all these things, that kind of muddle everything. And they're very logical and very intellectual reasons. For me, I was able to stand my ground because I knew the word, okay? But what really blew my mind is that my Korean friend, regardless of his understanding of the DP, regardless of his understanding with the word, regardless of the facts that were thrown at him, he had an innate, he was hardwired to just love and serve his father who served true parents, and he was hardwired to love and serve true parents unconditionally. And that is something he couldn't explain intellectually. That's something he couldn't explain at all. Because at the end of the day, that was something that was so deeply rooted in him, and that was so important. And I wanted that. I really want that. Growing up, I think one of the reasons that I was very, my faith was very safe is because there wasn't any overemphasis on things that we didn't quite understand, no customs or traditions or whatnot. And that worked out for us, but there's no getting around it. We do have to have this connection with our parent. We do have to have this connection with our true family. As hard as it is, it has to happen. It's part of our growth. So God knew what I needed, and that was a connection to the true family, a connection to the Korean tradition. And I've seen this before, actually experienced this before in 2010, the first time we went to compete at the Wangju Peace Cup. After our days of competition, we were going through a couple tours. Jin Kwon Hyung took us on many tours. And my favorite stop, and to this day, it's arguably my favorite place in the world. We stopped at the Cheongbokgung, the church temple. And I just had such an incredible experience there. When the tour began, we had this short little Korean guy in a suit. And I really couldn't explain it. I was just such a good mood. I was really jumpy. I was really bouncy. I was walking around. I was at the front of the tour group the whole time. And at some point, I don't know what was in my mind, But I don't even know if I did or he did it, but this Korean leader just grabbed my hand and started skipping with me. And he's giving this tour. And we're just so happy, and I'm feeling so overwhelmed with this 심정, you know what I'm saying? Like this Korean culture of heart. It's just a wonderful feeling. It was something that I was missing so deeply. And after that tour, there's a little moat in the main lobby. There's pictures of prophets. There's, Muhammad. There's Jesus. There's many prophets there, Confucius and True Father, and there's this moat there. And I remember praying there, and I remember just being absolutely overcome by feelings that I couldn't quite understand, that I've never experienced before, that were hard for me to admit because I'm an engineer, But I submit to that, and that really changed me. That gave me a strong sense of identity as a second gen, what we're doing here, and the connection to, that lineage in God's heart. So God knew that, and because God gave me a Korean wife, she's half Korean, and the point is not that I got a Korean wife. The point is that God knows what we need to grow, And God knew that this person is going to be the person that's going to make me perfect, whether I achieved it or not. You know what I mean? Because that's something that is going to make me a better person. That's going to make me a stronger person. So that Korean culture of heart, I'm a proud Westerner, a person of reason. I have to think things through logically and systematically, but that is not the answer to everything. That you can't take that approach for everything in this movement. And it took a long time for me to understand that. And God's been knocking on my door telling me, you have to submit sometimes, It took me a long time to understand attendance. It took me a long time to understand absolute faith, absolute love, and absolute obedience. And this just the heart that True Father has to us, and all our members, and the world. And that's one of the things that became so apparent in my recent trip to Korea for the blessing. I remember my wife was very adamant that we are the first couple on the first bus to the center in the morning when they started shuttling the couples over there. So we're at the resort, a couple hundred people. And I know a lot of girls took tickets between midnight and 5 a.m. to do the hair with a professional dressmaker. So we made all these compromises. She did her hair herself. We stayed up for a decent portion of the night. And we were down in the lobby when there were very few people there. And I knew this was going to be a challenge to really fulfill this, but especially because it's a little unorganized. This is the way Korea is, a little unorganized. But we were in this lobby, and there were people coming in down the elevators and congregating, and there was no sense of where this line was starting. I'm like, but gee, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? How are we going to attend? And so I started praying. And at some point, my wife just took me and said, the line's going to start there. And I didn't believe her, but the line's going to start there. And she grabbed me, pushed me through a couple of European couples. That's a no-no. But, we had we were the first couple on the first bus in the front row of the bus to go to the blessing. And, it's funny. I left this out of last. We got off the bus. It was pitch dark, and we're running there, and she's in heels, and she says, "Go, just run without me. I'll find you. You got to get a seat, So we're going around this building. No one knows where the door is, where the entrance is. And I go there. I walk into this empty hall. Imagine this. The World Peace Center. It's this empty hall, and I'm just, Abuji, where are we going? And eventually we found out where True Mother was going to sit, the two chairs. And we found the closest place where we were allowed to sit as a couple, right by the aisle, right next to True Mother. And I had the time of my life. That those sitting for 4 or 5 hours weren't so bad. It was really an incredible experience. And that is a heart of attendance, if you ask me. That's someone who, that's a couple who really wants to be up, in the midst of the ceremony, in the midst of all of this, and right by a True Mother. We took selfies of the True Mother, and it was really a wonderful thing. And God knows I wouldn't have done that otherwise, Maybe I would, but that's something, that is part of me that God knew I needed. So he gave me that person. Learning through, the days after were a really wonderful experience. Just a lot of, double dates, and we had a triple date. All the couples hanging out in Seoul. Time of my life, and I really learned that concept that you grow faster than you've ever grown when you get married. So that was really, really, really good eye opener, and I loved it. That's God. Every time Yeah. Yeah. God really wants me to be a better person, and he's going to challenge me in the ways that I need to grow. And my wife does it in the most incredible way. And that's the most incredible thing, because God can really do that through matrimony. God can do that through love. God can do that through the holy blessing. He can make you grow. He can make you fall in love at the same time. That's a beautiful thing when you really align yourself. I'm all about being a better person. I think everyone wants to be a better person. And the final point, this is the most important point. This trumps all the other points. It's the right answer. It's the answer from the book. It came out of True Father's words. And it came from God's ideal family and the kingdom of the peaceful ideal world on September 12, 2005. And it goes, do you know what has pained God's heart the most, causing him the greatest grief over the long history since the fall of Adam and Eve? God lost his lineage. And with the loss of his lineage, he lost his right of ownership. With the loss of his lineage, he lost his right of ownership. He lost it. Let me talk about lineage for a moment. Lineage is more important than life and more important than love. Life and love come together to create lineage. Lineage cannot be established if either life or love is missing. Therefore, among the three qualities that define the parent-child relationship, love, life, and lineage, lineage is the fruit. Lineage is the fruit. Jew. All right. Without lineage, it gets better. Without lineage, neither life nor love can endure. You strive to set a good tradition, but it will endure only through your lineage. Lineage is the bridge allowing the parent's spirit to carry on through subsequent generations. And that has a very deep meaning, lineage. And I just look at everyone here. I just look at my parents, and my parents sacrificed their families because they felt that they could take on communism, and because they felt that they could save the world, make the world a better place. They abandoned their parents, they abandoned their siblings, and they followed the true father because they felt that he brought the truth, and they wanted to do something. That's the most valiant effort. It's the hardest thing to do, to leave your physical families. They sacrificed the most critical working years of their lives to follow a man who spoke of God's suffering and God's hope. You can't survive in a world today if you become a missionary from the ages of 25 to 40 to 45. And there are still people here that are fighting for the providence, for God, sacrificing their lives, sacrificing their families for God. I don't know any commitment that's bigger than that. And I don't know any higher purpose that's stronger than that. And I was raised with the truth that God so desperately wants his children back. That we lost something and we have the ability, and it's not going to be easy, but we have the ability and we have the opportunity to change that. And, when we're talking about lineage in that sense, the blessing is the least I can do to help my parents live forever. The blessing is the least I can do to help God live forever, to give God's world back, Aju. That's right. So we don't have confirmation and we don't have bar mitzvah. I think that, we have equivalents, the Ilshim ceremony. But the blessing is the closest thing that I have as a second generation, as a unification member, to support everything that we've been doing so far, everything that we're trying to do, everything that we failed at, to honor all those people who failed trying, to just honor God and work to bring God's peace here, And for me, in my own family, in my own couple, to provide a place where God can rest. Just a place where God can rest. That is the value of the blessing. I think that's something that's incredibly valiant to dedicate your life to. I think that's a decision that every young second gen, every young unification has had the opportunity, first gen has the opportunity to submit to. Just because we don't see it in our families, it doesn't make it less true. This is always a disclaimer that I see. Just because it's difficult to see this sometimes in our own families. It's difficult to recover from situations in our families. But it doesn't make the ideal any less true. It doesn't make it any less true in the eyes of God in what God is trying to do. So understanding the ideal is a start to understanding how we can grow as individuals and as a movement. And it's an incredibly difficult path. And when I look in a room like this, with everyone sitting here, we're all saints and we're all sages for choosing this way. This is not an easy way. But the reward is so big. The reward is so big. And that's what I wish for everybody. Anyway, and just to end on a light note, I remember I was talking to Stephen Sprague one day, and he said the most profound message that I've heard from him, and that stuck with me forever. And he asked me, what is the purpose of life? And, I said joy, or I said something, and he said, no, it's marriage. And I believe that because it encompasses so much of our ability to pass on our lineage. It encompasses so much about what's fun in life, how we can experience joy in life, being married. And I'm just extremely optimistic to get a crack at that, And so that's my experience of the blessing. And thank you all for listening. And God bless everyone's blessings. That's where we go.